Hello, everyone. Thanks for listening to the Young Pros Talk podcast. My name is Redmond. I am your host. Today, I have a co-host with me, guest co-host, Mr. Harris Nadeem.
Hello, everybody.
How are you doing?
Good. I'm not doing the squeaky voice yet, so we're good, I think.
And our celebrity guest for the day is Chloe.
Hi, everyone.
How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
How's everybody going? I'm good. Shit, I fucked that up.
What do you mean? I thought we were fine.
No, it's good.
No,
Yeah.
it don't matter. I'll figure
Yeah.
it out. Actually, can I do it again? I just want to do it again. It's
Yeah.
my. I don't know why I'm asking like it ain't my shit. Like, it's,
I think you should keep this because
Yeah.
this is way funnier than
Rolling.
any other intro.
Yeah.
keep rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So what's going on, guys? How are you? Thank you for coming today.
No problem. This is a cool setup you got here, man.
Thank
Being
you.
Very
It's my-
professional. I'm happy to be in the studio.
You're gonna say impressed. You can say impressed.
I thought I did say impressed.
Well, I'm
No.
impressed, and
Yeah.
I'm honored to be here.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm very honored for you to come.
Thank you.
You know, so we're just gonna talk about art today. Harris is here to, I don't know, keep things going. Pretty well.
That's a much needed comic relief.
Yes.
You know, I miss having a co-host. You
Yeah.
know.
Did you have a co-host before?
So in the beginning, I did have somebody who was on the first couple of episodes. I think we did about 3 or 4 episodes,
Okay.
and then schedules and
Yeah, it's hard.
I switched jobs, so we weren't working in the same office anymore. So it took some time just to find. I just couldn't really find anybody who had the time to do it, or I felt like had the energy to really give it what I need for the podcast. And I always had Harris in mind to co-host, and when I talked to him about it, Chloe, I tell you this, when I talked to him about it, I was like, hey man, would you like to co-host a podcast with me? Like, I would love that. And he's like, do I get to talk about me?
Classic Harris.
And I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but like, it's not about you. Well, he was like, no.
He's just here to promote his own podcast.
Exactly.
Slyly on the
Yeah.
DL.
Exactly.
He don't
Not,
care
not
about
on the
us.
DL at all.
Just straight up.
On the
I
up high.
respect that about you. I respect that.
I appreciate that, man. He's very honest. He's very honest. You should just hear
I
us
am.
play
I'm
video
an
games.
asshole, but I am honest.
He's an honest asshole.
You're an
Ladies,
honest
he's an
asshole.
honest asshole. Swipe right.
If you're looking for an honest asshole,
Yeah.
here it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
So, Chloe, you
Yes.
do visual art.
I do.
That's why you're here. Title. Oh, I didn't even do the title.
What's the
Which
title?
is artistically abstract.
There we go.
You know.
Title
So-
drop. Dun, dun, dun.
So, just start with the basics. Tell everybody about yourself.
So I am a graduate of York University.
Woo woo.
I did social economy, which is like credit unions, co-ops, that kind of thing. But I realized quickly that you don't make any money doing that, and it's a very rewarding endeavor, but it's not something I could definitely make a lifestyle off of. So kind of floated for a while, and then I'd always loved art. I'd done it back in high school. I'd done it in elementary school. I was always drawing and stuff, but you know, as your parents tell you, especially having a Chinese mom, it's like, well, either you're a doctor or a lawyer or you live on the street. So,
Truth.
you know, nobody
Is
makes any
that
money.
true? You got a Chinese mom?
No,
No, he makes sense. He's adopted now.
brown parents too. Are the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, though,
Yeah.
right? It's like, just like,
Engineer.
yeah, if you don't have a respectable career, like, what are you doing with your life? You
Yeah.
might as well kill yourself.
Yeah.
Wow. So, what do your parents think about you now, Harris?
I try not to ask them.
It's a constant disappointment.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Okay.
No, my mom's pretty great, though, I gotta say
Yeah.
now. But for a while, she kept being like, do you want to work in an office? And I was like, okay, you've asked me for the 30th time.
Yeah.
Like, not gonna happen. But yeah, then
How did you know that you did not want to work in an office?
well, I just like saw my friends do it, and I was like, okay,
Mm.
it doesn't really seem
Yeah.
like my thing. And then I also realized that like I need a job that makes me or allows me to like be social, be up and moving. Like I can't sit there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's why I loved serving so much. It was just like, okay, the time passes. Like I'm not like wanting to rip my hair out because I've done retail, and like that was the worst possible thing.
Really?
Yeah. Oh my god. My last retail job, my last shift, I just like didn't even show up. Like and they kept calling me. I saw the phone. I was like, not answering that one, and just like go straight to voicemail.
Where'd you work?
Green Earth.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yo,
one of
you
those
can't
hippie
ask those
stores.
questions, man. I
Fair,
gotta bleep
fair.
that out, man. What is wrong with you?
No,
Yeah.
it's fine. It's been years. They sent me my last check, so everything's cool, I guess.
Oh,
but-
they forgot you did come that last shift. They were like, just get it out.
yeah, I'm glad they mail shit.
So,
but-
so you went to York. Why'd you pick York? Was it specifically like when you were choosing universities to go to? Were you going originally for that program you went for, or were you looking to do something else at first?
well, sort of. So like, First, it was I got into Laurier for economics, and that was the only school I got into, so I had to go there because I'm not going to live at home and not go to university.
Right.
And then I did 4 years there, and then I took a year off in between that I didn't tell my mom about. So if she's listening, sorry, Mom, I'm not here now. And then I just kind of meandered through, and I hated econ. I sucked at it. I was getting barely passing grades. I took macroeconomics I think 3 times, which was the maximum I could take it. Still failed it. Took a bunch of psychology courses, took a bunch of philosophy courses, and then was like, well, I guess I can transfer. So I just transferred schools and ended up picking York for the program that I was in. And I didn't really know I'd love it at the time, but it was something that was interesting. You know, it was okay, I like helping people. I like kind of being in that industry and doing that sort of thing. And I wanted to volunteer a lot. So I'd kind of been in that vein, but it was really cool stuff to learn about. It was just sucked that you go into the field and you're looking at jobs and you're like, oh, nobody makes any money unless they're the head of an organization kind of thing. And I didn't want to do that. That's a lot of work.
And it's hard to get to that path.
Yeah.
You know, was it one of those things where you had to take more education to even get to that? You know,
maybe probably, but maybe not. I mean, now I think everybody has a master's, so I probably would.
It drives me crazy.
I know.
Not that it drives me crazy that people have it. It's just it seems like it's setting the bar so high, especially in Canada. That's probably why it's so competitive to find jobs, because everybody's so educated.
Yeah. So Starbucks employee has a master's now. Jesus.
Yeah.
You know?
So hang on. So was art ever a part of your life throughout this journey of education, or no?
No. So it was really weird. During high school, I had an amazing art teacher, and she taught me everything I know, and she gave me a really good foundation. She was able to get everyone in the class doing really realistic Baroque style drawings and stuff, but then I ended up graduating, and I was like, well, nobody makes money doing art, and I can't pay for art supplies. They're really expensive.
Right.
So I just kind of
Are they really expensive?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It adds up pretty quick.
You do, yeah.
What are we saying minimum you paying to get some art stuff?
A thing of a tube of paint, let's say, is I don't know, $8 to $10. But if you're getting all the colors, that adds up really fast. I spend $200 on an art store, no problem. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Is there an art store you prefer to get your supplies from?
Yes, everybody go to Gortzman's, Spadina College on Spadina. It's phenomenal.
We're gonna have to get some sponsorship money for that plug right there.
I would love that. And the guy that owned it, he died recently, but he's super sweet, really nice guy, very honest. One time I was cashing out, and he was he just randomly asked me, he's like, do you know what the difference is between expensive oil paints and regular oil paints? And I was like, I don't know, I'm guessing expensive ones are better. And he was like, no, it's the same shit. Just buy the cheap stuff. And I was like, oh my God, who are you? I love you. Crazy old man, you.
So do you have a moment when you realized when you originally were interested in art, do you know how sometimes people have something that happened to them and they're like, I love this? When was that moment for you?
In terms of now, later on in life, or at the beginning?
In the beginning, before you decided to go to school and then start doing this art.
Gotcha.
Again, when did it originally become something that appealed to you?
For me, it wasn't a moment. It was just when I was a kid, I loved drawing, I loved coloring, I loved looking at art, I loved all that stuff. I just was absorbed with it. I loved going to the gallery. You know what I mean? I found that so cool, but. And I just kind of always thought it'd be really fun to do something like that. So in high school, I also cosplayed, and so I sewed a bunch of costumes together, and I loved that. And I thought, maybe I'll do that. But then I realized also again, very hard work and not a lot of pay, and very hard to get well paid in the industry. And if you do, it's awesome, but it's just really hard to get to that point.
So you were building your own costumes from scratch?
Yeah.
You know, my sister's like that. She's
oh yeah.
Yeah, she's a genius. It's frustrating, and
and here you are. I'm kidding.
No. Here I am doing a podcast while she's going to university. No, she's a genius. So she's she literally told me once that she was much smarter than what the school was teaching her, and so it's great to be a genius, but it sucks for the family because geniuses know they're smarter than everybody. And they remind you that they're smarter than you, you know. But one thing she used to do, I want to say she was 14 or 15. Oh, this was several years ago. I wonder if I don't remember if I was still living in Detroit or not. She built her own costume.
Wow.
She got the fabric. She went and got the supplies, and it was strange to me because I was like, how do you even know?
Yeah. So how did you learn how to do all that stuff?
So my first costume was if you guys ever played Final Fantasy X-2, was
I haven't played Final Fantasy in 10 to 12 years.
Okay.
So
okay, so it was this black leather outfit and with all these straps and stuff and all this weird stuff. My parents were like, "You're not wearing that outside." But
Sounds like Final Fantasy to me.
yeah, right. It was like a little too sexy for a 15-year-old. But I saw it, and me and my girlfriends wanted to do the group, the 3 characters in it. So we got it made by these women like who lived in the same neighborhood as me that we happened to find. And then afterwards, I was like, "Well, I kind of want to learn. Like, it's really expensive to pay you guys. So like, can you just give us sewing lessons instead?" So they gave us our first sewing lesson, and then we did Final Fantasy. I think 8 costumes. Yeah. And then from there, I just started like picking it up and kind of like Googling stuff. And thank God for Google, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
And then I had a couple friends I met through conventions, and they would teach me stuff. But I was nowhere near as good as some of the people I hung out with. Like, some people are insanely good. Like, it's wild to me.
My sister's one of those. I don't think anybody taught her anything.
That's crazy.
I think she figured it out. I think she Googled it. You know, if you talk about like Greek mythology with her, she knows everything. Egyptian mythology or ancient Egyptian history, she knows everything. So I always find it impressive, you know, when people can do stuff like that, because I don't have that ability at all. What about you?
To learn?
You know it well, so you would have a good authority on that.
Yeah.
I don't have the ability to just like know how to do something and just
I think it takes time, man. I think people don't realize the effort that people put into this stuff. They just see them like, oh, she's a seamstress now, but it's like it takes a lot of work. Like it's not. I bet you there wasn't just one Google. I bet you there were a lot of.
There's a lot.
No, that's true. And there probably was a lot of practice. You're right.
Yeah.
You know, I'll ask my sister, and if she tells me something different, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's impressive where there are a lot of people that can get things instantly and can see a video and do it once, and then they're like professionals.
Well, some people are very like easy at picking up. I think like physical things. Like my boyfriend is like, he'll watch a video once and like know how to do the thing immediately, and I'm like, what the?
Really?
Like I gotta watch it over and over, and I dissect it, and I'm like, okay, I think
that's not how he got into DJing, is it?
No, no, he had friends and he went to music school, and whatever. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was pretty fun.
I think you're also predisposed to be able to learn certain things better, right? Like I see people do like Rubik's cubes, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, that's one thing I have to say that it's one of those things that's on my like bucket list is to solve a Rubik's cube.
There's a formula. I dated a guy who showed me the formula, and it's actually like if you just know the rotations, which direction, how many times, you can do any Rubik's cube for like pretty quick, actually.
Okay, say that much slower for the non-geniuses.
No, it's like something like, you know,
there's a rhythm.
Yeah, there's a rhythm, exactly. Like 2 turns left, 2 turns up, 4 turns right, like 4 turns down. It's
so have you solved one before?
Like I did a line, and then I was like, I'm bored of this, and then he was like, okay.
See, it's still difficult, even when you know that.
You gotta practice. It's true.
I've always been impressed that Will Smith knows how to do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like there's a video. Have you ever seen Pursuit of Happiness?
Fresh Prince.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't have excuse in that for sure.
Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah.
He figures out the Rubik's Cube, right?
Yeah.
And I always thought that was just like movie shit, right? Like camera
Magic,
editing, blah blah blah. They, you know, one angle they show him doing it, and the next angle he's just got a complete. You know, like they just gave him a complete one on set.
Yeah.
And then he actually completed one like on Instagram Live or some shit.
Cool.
And I was like, fuck, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to learn how to do that. That's on my bucket list.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we know there are many different forms of visual art, but you do abstract art. What made you decide to do abstract art as opposed to any other visual art style?
Because I can't draw for shit. Honestly, it was out of pure laziness, which is the most like kind of ironic thing to me. And it's like, yeah, everybody says I'm so good, but like I just don't know how to do anything.
I was just.
Did you like to draw or no?
I do. I love to draw, and there's so many things like I want to draw. I just am not good at like. I haven't practiced, I should say, and it makes me not good at like understanding form and all that. And so like when I was getting back into it, it was just like, well, I want to do something artistic, and I just had these paints I'd randomly bought just for fun. I kind of went crazy at the art store and just like was like, that looks pretty, that looks cool, like just pick random shit up. And then I got home and I started like throwing them down, because like that's kind of around the time, it would have been like 2.5 years ago, when like the dirty pour paintings, which is like kind of the style I do, got really, really popular. So I just started trying to copy people.
Wait,
on
what's
Instagram.
dirty pour?
Yeah, I was about to ask the
Dirty
same
pour
thing.
is
See why I brought Harris here today?
There you go. Right? Got all the good questions.
Yeah. I'm rude and will interject. Stop talking. Tell me that
Shut
thing.
No, so it's basically just the concept of like taking paints that are thinned out, so they're more like viscous and liquidy, and just like pouring them together and making these cool abstract things. Usually they have what are called cells, which are like the little round kind of like bubbles you see in my paintings. And that's what you do with silicone, but that's a whole other thing.
So really, your whole introduction to abstract art is because
I'm lazy. I was like, I could either, because I also loved, for example, I loved mandalas. I still do, but I loved that at the time a lot, and I was trying to learn them. And I was like, well, I could learn how to draw mandalas and spend hours doing it, or I could just do this thing right now in like 20 minutes. So I kind of was just more economical.
So wait, how long? And I hope that's not a question on my sheet here, but how long how long does it take you to do, like, I guess, a basic art piece?
So
if it's like,
it's maximum like 3 hours, because the paint, I have to work with the paint wet. So if the paint dries, like, I can't work with it anymore. So it's up to 3 hours, and that's kind of when the paint starts to dry too much that you can't move it around anymore. And then I just put the resin coat on top afterwards, and that's it.
So how did you learn? I hope this is also not a question on my sheet. I'm not looking at my sheet right now. I'm just like freestyling.
I like it. It's all loose. It's
just
fun.
like freestyling this shit right now. How did you learn to do that form of visual art, of abstract art, outside of course, because you say you're lazy and you just don't know how to draw, but like, how did you learn to, like, even, because I mean, don't they teach abstract? There's got to be an abstract art class or something, right?
They probably do.
So like, how did you learn to, like, put everything together, or is it just not that hard to do? Not to take away from.
No. But in a way, if you know what you're doing, it's not that hard. You know what I mean? With a lot of things, I think. And so, like, especially with this, it was like, I just looked at people online on Instagram and stuff, and I was like, okay, that looks cool. Like, I kind of want to emulate that. So I'd mix those colors and try to kind of copy what they did, and try to get to that vein. And it would turn out differently, but then I would learn something from that. And so it was just like a process of trial and error consistently. And I'm kind of the person that, like, doesn't love to read instructions, even though I know I should. So, like, I end up messing up the IKEA furniture a lot. Not anymore, but
no. You always get that shit where it's backwards. You put it in backwards or something. That happens to me all the time.
No, my boyfriend literally did that last night. He made it like these shelves I had bought yesterday, and I looked at it, and my girlfriend was over, and she's like, I don't think that's the right way. And we're like trying to figure it out. And then we look at the packaging. We're like, yeah, all the shelves are flipped upside down, but the rest of it's put up like the right way. So you had to do everything and then put it all back together properly.
But you know what? Actually, IKEA furniture is one I wish they would give more written instructions.
I know.
What?
Because
no, but the written, it doesn't make sense.
No, because like the picture, sometimes I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, you don't ever get confused.
Did you not have Lego as a child? Lego
did.
prepares you for IKEA.
That is true. Yeah. That's a very good point.
Well, I guess I did not have Legos growing up.
They should give you like a Lego starter set with your first IKEA piece.
Yeah, it should be for
like
kids.
learn.
If you take your kids to IKEA, they should get some Lego.
Yeah, exactly.
Train the future.
Exactly.
I mean, it's funny. I've heard people say that, like, Legos are the basics for a lot of, like, kids, like, careers. Like, one of my friends, he's an
Lego.
Lego, yeah.
Okay, sorry. Really? I'm interested to see where it goes.
See, one of my friends is an engineer, and I don't know if he was bullshitting though, but he was saying that when he first thought about becoming an engineer or whatever, it was because he was playing with Legos. Like, he was building blocks and whatever, and then something clicked in his mind about. And then engineering just seemed to be the natural fit for him.
This, kids, is what we call anecdotal evidence.
No, I think it's true, though, It's like, there's something there to, like, letting the kid explore and, like, put stuff together. That's what engineering is. It's like being creative, but also being mathematical,
Exactly. There's got to be some stat out there for, like, how Legos help children develop some type of something, Like, there's a fucking study for everything, man.
It's true.
You know what I mean? Like, you can find a study and that confirms your bias anywhere. Not saying that, like, they do these studies to confirm biases, but I mean, I'm sure there's just some information out there that says, like,
talking about anti-vaxxers.
Flat Earthers.
Yes, and sorry, flat earthers.
Oh, speaking of, I met one last weekend.
Right? I've never met one in real life.
No, I met one on last weekend. I went to the barbershop. I go to the barbershop every week, and then there's a coffee shop I go to that's right next to it, and this guy came in, and I don't know how he started talking, and then next thing I know, he's talking about how he don't believe satellites are real.
It's all a government conspiracy.
And
GPS is a government conspiracy.
And then that nothing can actually leave or enter the Earth. He believes it's kind of something like a glass dome. And
oh dear.
And the reason he believes the Earth is flat is because liquids are always level or something. Even
that's actually a pretty good one.
that's better than some of the other things I've heard.
That's the first
one
that I hear, and I'm like, how would I? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
That's
the
how
other
to counter that one.
the other thing he said, well, I asked him because I've always been I've always said if I meet a flat Earth believer, then I gotta ask him this question, like, do you ever look at the moon and be like, yo, what the fuck is happening, right? Like, why is the moon round? You know, so I'd ask him like that. I said, if you look at the moon and it's a spherical shape, why would you assume that the Earth would be any different?
Yeah.
And
But it could be a flat disc, right? I mean, just to play devil's advocate.
It's just a flat disc facing
So
us.
the Earth could be a circular disc, but it's still flat.
No, that wouldn't work. I'm not a scientist, man. You know, let's just.
Should we bring one in on this?
I'm definitely gonna bring a scientist in to like talk about this shit. I have
Yeah.
no idea, you know, but I don't think so. Stop giving these guys evidence, man. They're gonna listen. The Earth could be a flat disc.
I heard Harris Nadeem say the Earth could be flat. He doesn't know how liquids work, so
Oh.
So, sorry. Back to art. You know, it's all about Chloe and art right now. You
yes.
know, I hate
Bring
to
the
digress.
podcast back to me, please.
Yeah.
That would be great.
So with the art, do you remember like doing your first design? So 2 parts: your first design
Hmm.
that you ever did, and then the first design you did that you sold to somebody.
Ooh, okay, yeah. First design for sure. It's actually on my Instagram. It's my first like art post, and it was like it was okay. I didn't.
Where
really
do you
love it.
draw the line of like what is your first thing? Because like how like aren't the I was about to say Fantastic Four. Like aren't the Final Fantasy costumes that you made also, don't they count
That's
as
true.
art pieces?
Yeah, that's a
as
good-
well?
Yes,
Like,
that's a good
where do
point.
you decide like
I mean,
am
like
an
the first
artist
piece of
now?
art was probably like the first shitty macaroni necklace I made my parents.
Right.
But like first piece of art in like
That's
abstract
everybody's
art,
first
let's
piece
say.
of art,
Yeah.
right? Everybody's had a macaroni
Yeah.
necklace sometime in their life.
I know. It always makes me think of that that joke where what's that comedian? He's like, "Used to be my balls, man. Now you making me a macaroni necklace and shit." It's my favorite. No, but I think first abstract for sure. It's that one on my Instagram, and it's like I don't know. I was just throwing color down, and like it was not good, and I was like, okay, I'll just add some white here and like try to fix it and whatever, and it was nice because I posted it and I got like quite a positive response from a lot of people, which was kind of surprising. So then I was like, okay, I guess like this could be a thing, and like let's just do it for fun. And then the first piece I sold would have actually technically been a trade I did with a friend at work. So I traded him one of my first pieces in exchange for a tent and 4 camping chairs.
That's
Oh,
that's
shit.
pretty,
It
that's a
was-
lot of money, really. if you
Yeah.
think
It was a
about
dope
yeah.
trade. He was
Yeah.
like, well, my parents found it in their place and they're getting rid of it. And I use that tent at every festival,
Yeah.
every camping trip. It's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Outbound. Check it out. Shit.
So you're just doing a lot of these plugs right now. We're gonna have to get
I
a lot
know.
of sponsorship dollars coming
I know.
this way
You're
soon.
going to be rich by the end of this.
Hopefully. So, how many paintings have you sold since you sold that one? And then, did you think that since that your trade was the first one,
Yeah.
after doing that, did you think, oh wow, this is maybe something I can do, or were you already getting back into, trying to do art?
It took me a while. So, like, I would say probably like 3 to 6 months before I was like, okay, this seems like something that I can maybe explore. Because I had sold maybe, up to now, I probably sold, I would say, like 20, 30 pieces
Mm-hmm.
at least.
Wow,
if I'd
that's a
ballpark
lot.
it.
Wow.
But to me, it's like, I'm so self-critical. I'm like, that's not enough.
Mm.
But I think, yeah, at that point I'd sold like 2 or 3, and it was like people at work, a lot of people at work were like, "Oh, I want something," and like, "Can you do this or that?" And so that was kind of cool, just having it grow so organically that like it went from being just like a total hobby to like so many people encouraging me in a way that was not just like, "Hey, good work," because
Mhm.
like a lot of your friends can like say that's really good, whatever you've done, but like sometimes they go to talk to their other friend, they're like, "That was shit." But like I gotta be nice because I gotta support her. And, like I gotta lift her up. I don't want to ruin her self-esteem. You know what I mean? Yeah. No.
So, do you have a process in place to make art? I mean, like once it starts becoming lucrative, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
It's
gotta have a
almost-
system. You gotta
wow.
have something to
It's
like
almost as
scale
if
up.
he read the outline.
but I didn't. I'm just that smart.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I do have a bit of a system. It's like, and if I'm doing a commission, I usually mix up enough paint to do a bunch of pieces all at once. Because like, I want to explore that color palette, and I want to try out usually new techniques anyway. So it's always like an evolving thing. So I'll set up like usually 4 to 6 to 8 to 10 canvases on my little like
Wow.
space I have at home, and then I'll like just do a bunch of them all at once. Because the thing is too, I want to make art accessible and I want to make it cheap enough, so I have to do it in a way that is easily scalable. That doesn't mean I'm doing one painting at a time, because that's why art's so expensive, is because it's one person focusing on this piece for like 40 hours, you know what I mean?
Right.
And it's hard to ask for $700 for a piece that's like, 10 by 10. But like if somebody's put in, I don't know, 40 hours or something, it makes sense, right? Like that's actually really cheap. So I see that actually as a struggle with a lot of like friends I have who are artists that do more realistic work and stuff like that, or more of things that are of actual like forms and things in real life. And I can see the frustration, and it's tough because I don't know, we get things so cheap now. Everybody expects it to be like, you go to IKEA and you get a really nice print of something and it's like $15. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So do those artists have different temperaments than you? Like, are they more angry?
Did I make them sound angry? I'm sorry.
No, well, I feel that way. Like when I have to do like multiple different things all the time, like just to have the enthusiasm between each project is like, goddamn, so difficult sometimes.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if you struggle, if like you're doing multiple at the same time. Is that something that you struggle with at all? Or
For me, no. I love it, and I kind of love, like, I'm a workaholic. I love being busy. I love always having more things to do on my to-do list because I'm a psychopath,
right?
Or maybe a masochist.
I think that's what makes people good, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna be good.
You're good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But I think with my friends too, I would say for the most part they're pretty chill. But I think it can be. I can see the frustration sometimes. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So we talked about the process. I remember we talked about how, like, we got that process right for how you do it. But how long does it take you to even get to the point to like you've got an idea and now you want to execute it?
Okay. So for me, it's like it kind of depends on a few things. Like lately, I've been finding pictures where I really like the color palette in it, and I'll go off that. So I did a series where I did like mostly birds. I've been finding more birds, so it's kind of continuing. But there's a bunch of different things I'll just see that I'll save on my computer or my phone, and I'll just use it as inspiration. So that, I mean, it can take anywhere from like, 1 day to like weeks and weeks until I finally get to go kind of explore that idea and explore that color palette. But if somebody gives me a commission, it's like so difficult because they give me like some constraints in terms of size, hopefully color palette, kind of the idea they want to go for. But at the same time, I'm also like freaking out because I'm like, well, I want them to love it, and then I get two in my head, and I literally sit there, like, especially if I smoke weed, it's like I'll sit there, I'll have all the paints mixed, I've got my soundtrack on, I'm sitting in front of everything, and I'm ready to go, and it's like I sit there for an hour going, well, like, what if I just maybe this, and like, what about that, and like I just psych myself up sometimes and psych myself out sometimes, which is kind
is
of
it just because it's commission that's the only thing that changes? Everything else about the process is the same.
I would think that would be what, because then it just you're restricted in your creative like processing a bit because you have to.
But you're not more confident because you're like, okay, this is someone's already come to you. They already like your work, so it's like the pressure. I would think maybe the pressure would be less, but no.
Well, it's like it's weird because it's both. It's like yes, the confidence in me like totally gives me confidence, and I'm like so grateful and so like amazed that they even want something from me, and I'm glad. But then it's like, okay, if they don't love this, like I'm gonna feel shit forever. So and usually it's people I know. So it's like even today. Like my friend's boyfriend came and dropped off a vinyl to me, and he wants to do a piece for her for Christmas for her, and like he gave me the color she likes, the color she doesn't like, and he's like, oh, I want this part kind of kept in, whatever, and it was like, okay, cool, but then it's like, I only have one shot, like I don't want to fuck it up, you know what I mean? And then if I fuck it up, like, and I know they're never gonna tell me they don't like it, but like you can tell when someone doesn't like it. And that feeling just like gnaws away at me at night. You know what I mean? And if I like them, it gnaws away at me. If I don't like them, then who fucking cares? You gave me money. But usually I like them, so it's usually like upsetting. But it doesn't happen. It's only happened once, so thank goodness.
Okay, that's
crossed.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Have you ever redid a piece after starting it because you didn't like how it was going? How often does that happen?
Not a lot, but the first, I would say the first big commission I did, it was like a 36 by 36, and like I did it 3 times.
Wow.
Yeah. Like I was
third time's a charm.
But like the third time I was like, I need to get this right or else like I'm just wasting my time and like this girl's gonna be so mad and like it was very stressful.
So how long did it take you to finally finish that one? Like how much time did you
that was
after,
like,
and at what point did you like in completion did you say, okay, now I'm gonna scrap it, do it over, and then okay, now I'm gonna scrap it again, I'm gonna do it over?
Well, I did it. I did the like resin coat over it, and then I was like, okay, that sucks. And then I did it again like a week later, and then I put the resin coat over it, and I was like, that still sucks. And then I think like probably a week later, I was like, okay, we're gonna try something totally different. And I tried something totally different, and it kind of just like worked out. And I was like, and it just at the end, I looked at it and it was like, that's exactly it. That's her. That's exactly what I wanted to make for her. I finally got it. But it was like just, especially being on that big of a scale, like I'd gone from like, I don't know, 10 by 10 pieces to 36 by 36, and it was like totally daunting. But it was what I needed. I needed someone to have the confidence in me to want a piece that big and to commission it. You know what I mean? And I gave her an insanely stupidly low price, but because I didn't know what I was doing, it was just the beginning. I was like, I don't know, $200, like. Meh. So yeah, and I'm glad because it helped me learn so much. Like I really learned a lot from that piece. Yeah. So it kind of worked out in the end.
Do you worry about? I know we kind of talked about it, but do you worry about you not liking a piece and them not liking a piece, or does the opposite ever happen where you don't like the piece and they like the piece?
Yeah, so not in commissions, but there's a couple pieces that I've had from like previous shows I've done that are like just sitting in my house, and I'm like, whatever, it's all right. I'll probably paint over it. And then I have a friend be like, can I buy that? And I'm like, you like that? Are you sure? Like, we have more.
Speaking of, we've been over to your place. You invited us for Halloween party.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for inviting. I was just a black man.
Is that? I guess it's not racist because you're.
Yeah.
One. Would have been better if he dressed up as you.
I could never dress up as him.
Just in a darker town, it's
fine. And I feel like your home is like reflect of what I imagine an artist's home would be. Just all types of art.
Yeah.
Everywhere, just like on the wall. You go up the stairs, there's art. We spent time. I don't know why we were trying to decipher the different mushrooms in one of the paintings.
No, but I love that piece. It's we do try to make our home very inspiring, and like I want it to A, feel like home, and B, like I want it to really inspire me. I want to look around and just, even as vain as it might be, but even looking at my own art, it's like, fuck yeah, like I love that shit. You know what I mean? Like, damn. Because I think you should, even though you should be self-critical because it pushes you forward, you should also love your own stuff to a certain degree.
That's absolutely true.
Like, do you guys have jokes that you find that you're like, that makes me laugh, even though I made it up?
Yes.
No?
I find all my jokes funny. Actually.
Wow, so humble.
I feel like
what a typical comedian.
I feel like that's just very typical of being a comedian.
No, I don't love all my jokes.
Really?
No.
What's the joke you hate?
I hate a lot of jokes that people like because I'm like, this is really dumb, but people always love them, so I keep them in because I'm like, it's not about me, it's about the people.
It's true.
It's fair.
It must be nice getting immediate audience feedback and totally like
except when you get none.
Yeah, true. That is fucking terrible.
When that's the feedback. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Worst and best moments at the same time. Yeah.
Plus, the more I'm learning about stand-up comedy, the more he goes, the more I don't do it. It's all about the audience, man, because I've performed in different places and a joke would just be like great, like everybody loves it, and then you do the same joke somewhere else and then the reaction is like some people like it, but it's not like the love you got from it somewhere else. So it depends. And I'm trying, honestly, I'm gonna start doing comedy again now because I have more time, and I've been telling him like I don't want to do open mics anymore.
You got to pay your dues.
This is the thing. I want to do. Now I'm not talking about doing book shows. I'm trying to get into like real comedy clubs for like amateur night. And the reason is because I find my issue with going to open mic nights is everybody trying to be a comedian. So like everybody in the room is trying to be a comedian. So I feel like that's not a good audience that you get an assessment on if your jokes.
If you think about it though, if you get somebody to laugh at an open mic, how funny you got to be to pull that off.
Yeah, if you're making a comedian laugh.
So it's like a shitty. I mean, it's a tough battleground. But if you get the laugh, it's like so much more motivating.
I feel like that, and I'm a harsh critic. He knows.
Yeah,
I'm a harsh critic of comedy.
So then your jokes must be really funny if you think all of your jokes are really funny.
I think they are. You know, I've even used them on people before without them knowing.
Please don't do it today.
Harris, are you saying he's not funny?
This is the guy who keeps actually trying to get me into. He's very encouraging. He's trying to get me to do more shows. He actually told me like you need to do more shows. Yeah,
friend,
I know. He's 3 compliments in one night. What is happening?
Yeah. What were the other 2? I gave 2 already.
He was telling me to do more shows, and he was like, and I was like, why? He was like, 'cause you're funny. I was like, oh, that actually touched my heart, Harris. You know, I wasn't expecting him to say that.
Well, you just got to get it from your heart to your brain and then to your feet, and then you can go to the shows and actually do them.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to do
watch you perform.
I was gonna do a show on Sunday, but
Yeah.
I found a reason to not do it, and which is typical of like beginning comedians. It's
Yeah, so
like,
do you have that as an artist too? Are you a big excuse maker, or do you like how big is scheduling and keeping yourself honest to like keep yourself going through the creative process? Because it can be pretty miserable sometimes.
Oh, totally. And I
Yeah.
mean, you guys know the creative process is so like touch and go. Like sometimes you're so
I
inspired.
like hearing
and
it from other
sometimes-
people too, though.
Yeah. We're
It's
all
not just
miserable
me.
fucks and we don't know what we're doing. Trust me.
Oh, it's
Uh,
comforting. Actually. I'm not alone.
Not alone in this weird world. No, totally. Like for me, scheduling is huge, just in my life in general. And I've learned how to like figure out my life through that. And like, if you look at my calendar, my boyfriend thinks I'm a psycho in that way. That like everything is in there. Like I've got every single thing I'm doing that day that's important that I need a reminder for, which is everything, because my brain can't keep track of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only reason I get so much done, because like people at work are always joking about me. They're like, I don't know, like you're going where after, and then you're doing what, and you're going to the 2 parties tonight. Like, how do you fit it all in?
Yeah.
You know, like, but you know, they're always like classic Chloe, just running off to the next thing. And that's the only reason I can get everything done that I want to, because I want to do so many different things. You know.
Do you keep it all on your phone, or do you, I'm a physical agenda type
really?
of
Are you?
Yeah.
No, I'm eco-friendly. So-
Well, my thing is my writing's not that neat. So like
Ah,
even because when
fair.
I'm at work, sometimes
That's
I write
fair.
down an order and I'm like, is that medium rare or medium well? Like,
Well, you got to get that right.
yeah, I do it back to the table, and it's like I can't. I literally say sometimes, I'm sorry, I can't read my own writing. What was your side?
Yeah.
Like, what was your doneness? Oh
Yeah.
God.
Do you ever and I feel like this happens to me. Do you ever get like excited? Like maybe you're going to bed and your brain is just running and
Yes.
running, and then you get a good idea
Yes.
and you just don't know how to execute it.
Yes, but I always love the challenge of like, okay, let's try this out. Let's see how we can maybe go about this thing. And I think especially with like the advent of Instagram and YouTube and all that stuff, like going through Instagram now just daily, like there's so many artists that are posting the process of what they're doing that I end up picking up really interesting techniques. And I love it because it's like I can apply the same technique, but I don't always get the same result. And that's kind of fun for me, because like each painting is kind of a little surprise, because I never know how it's going to really turn out in the end. I just kind of have a general idea.
So I guess, paint that picture.
That's also reassuring to hear.
Paint that picture of what that general idea looks like, kind of like. I'm guessing you kind of know do you even know the colors yet, or do
Yeah,
you
that's
even
like pretty much the only thing I know.
really?
Yeah, colors and like there's a couple different say styles that I do, and it's like the person hopefully tells me one of the 3 styles they like, you know what I mean, or whatever. And so that's kind of how I narrow it down. But then from there, it's just
So
kind of
wait,
free
there
fall.
are 3 styles of abstract art.
Well, no, like that I do. Let's say like my
Oh.
or 3 right now. I would say 3 main styles. Like there's one with like the bubbles in it. There's one where it's like more streaky and like lines, and then there's one where it's more like kind of splashy, if that makes sense. But it's like I'll get them to send me pictures of like what they like, what colors they like, and like pictures with color palettes they like, and then also like if there's any work I've done before that they really like, just to kind of narrow it down, because you could do anything. Like there's so many applications for abstract art, and even the dirty poor type of art. It's kind of insane. Like it's the things that people do sometimes, it really surprises me and blows my mind.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the most challenging like piece you've had to done outside of the one like
The big one?
take away the you want it to look good for the person who's being commissioned.
Yeah.
Let's even take away commission pieces in general.
Gotcha.
Like, what the fuck was my question?
What was the-
What's the well,
That's the most difficult one you said. I think.
Yeah.
difficult is they can be difficult varieties of difficult
Yeah.
too, right? It could be like technically difficult or like emotionally difficult project.
I think
Yeah.
so. Emotionally difficult was definitely it was sort of a commission in the sense that like I was donating a piece to a charity auction,
Right.
and it was like the first kind of big thing that I had done. It was like a year into doing it, and I was really excited and like this great opportunity to like get in front of like people with a lot of money. You know what I mean? And so I did this piece, and it was like a really long. I think it was like 40 by like I don't know 26 or something like that. So it was like super long, and I did it, and it just turned out beautiful. It was like one of my favorite pieces I've ever done. And so I have it propped up. I always have the pieces propped up on these like little cups I have, these plastic cups, because that way the paint drips off and it doesn't like pool on the floor, and then you don't have to cut off the sides when the paint dries and like dries on the sides. And so I'm like, okay, sweet, it's done. I can go downstairs, make dinner, whatever. So I go downstairs, make dinner, eat whatever. And then I come back upstairs, and one of the cups had fallen. And so the whole painting has tilted, and all the paint had run off. So then it totally changed the painting, and I hated it.
Oh,
And
no.
especially knowing what it looked like before, I was so mad. Like, my
What
mom was
did
like,
you
don't
do?
worry. I was
What did
like,
you do with that one?
I still gave it to them. I had to, you know what I mean? Like I had no time to fix it, and I was just like, what the fuck? You idiot! Like, why didn't you just stay and make sure everything was perfect and double, triple check and, you know, shoulda, woulda, coulda. But that was the most emotionally difficult, I think.
I was gonna ask, are you like a multitasker when you're painting? Like, are you doing a bunch of different shit at the same time, or are you completely focused on?
I have to be focused on it because it's the paint mixes so kind of quickly that you can't really like. I couldn't be making a meal and doing that at the same time. Like I have to focus on that, and when I'm done with it, I just like walk away and leave it.
Do you have FOMO where you like get there and you know you're like supposed to do the work and then you leave and nothing's gotten done?
Sorry, what's FOMO?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know.
Fear of missing out.
You're not hip.
Yeah.
Definitely
God
just heard
damn.
that.
You really heard that shit for the first time?
I mean, I've heard the term, but you know
know
how
what
you
YOLO is?
Just
checking.
I just imagine you just nodding along to people like, yeah, sure. And like,
oh, that happens all the time.
It's like
All the time.
yeah, he's just
I'm
like,
just
I
like,
think
yeah,
it's
yeah.
mofo. I think they're saying it wrong.
you're definitely saying it wrong. Yeah.
So yeah, do you get FOMO?
Sorry, what was it? FOMO in terms of? Oh yeah, like going away and then what? Like not.
Well, because you're like when you're making pieces, I imagine you're by yourself. You're not doing anything else.
Yes.
And then, like,
FOMO in terms of doing that, but not doing other things.
Yeah.
I have a real problem with saying no to people. Like I have a real problem with like saying no to things and like
Right.
activities. Like I want to do everything with everyone and be everyone's best friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I also want to like get my own shit done. So like
Right.
that's an impossible task.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely. But I'm learning now to like let go of that feeling because I just don't.
It's hard. If
Yeah.
you have any tips or tricks to share, please
For
impart
real.
them.
For
just
real.
stop giving a fuck about everyone else's feelings. That's the only thing I've
I
learned.
know.
Well,
But it's hard.
It is
like
hard.
you
that's
said, the
That's
that's
negative-
really hard in comedy. I feel like too.
Well,
You
yeah,
know,
that's all
like
you care about.
yeah, especially like
Like
we
me.
get we get people. I'm sure you get this all the time. Like people know like you do stand up comedy, and when you tell them, they're like, "Oh, can we come to a show?"
Yeah.
And you're like, "No."
Yeah.
Like, absolutely. Like I don't invite friends or family or
You get over that.
Yeah.
You will get over that eventually.
no. I'm not getting over it. I do not want them to see me.
No, but you got to, you know.
Yeah.
Then I can't talk about them.
No, you can't. You just lose some friends. It's fine. And some family.
Yeah.
You just shed the dead weight. You know what I mean? I'm kidding. I think if they can't handle it, then fuck them. But also, you know, like you gotta. I think for to your point or to what you were asking, like also just in doing it and practicing the whole like just for me saying no all the time. And now it's like I just know I don't have time, so I say no, and it's not as big of a deal as whereas before it was like. I'd be like, okay, maybe like if I'll get back to you, and like if you just give me like a day, I'm gonna switch some things. I don't know, just like I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's like no, just say no. You know you don't have time, or I'd be like, yeah, I'll see what happens that day. Like I'll text you, even though I know in my mind I'm not gonna text you.
Right.
I'm not gonna see you.
But it must have taken you a while to build up to that.
Totally. Oh,
Yeah. Okay.
it's taken years.
Have you built up to that?
I'm getting a lot better. But like sometimes when I'm doing really shitty work, the FOMO comes back and I'm just like, oh god, I should be.
Is it like what am I doing this for?
Yeah.
What is FOMO again? Fear of
Missing out.
missing out.
Yeah.
Should I write it down for you?
Conversation
Yeah.
we're having.
FOMO. I don't feel like I get that. To be
No,
honest with
well
you.
that's
No?
good, man.
I kind of don't. I do care about what people think, but more so the people that I care about. That
That's
makes
what you
any
should care
sense?
about.
Yeah.
You know, other people, not so much. Like I'm probably, if you talk to any of my exes, they would say I'm pretty like low on the empathy scale. You know,
Really?
yeah, and it's pretty bad. I don't think I am.
Like,
I
are
think
you like borderline psychopath or like?
no, I'm not like sociopath or anything. I just don't. Some things don't like rile me up like they do some people.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like for example, I don't get excited about weddings and like.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
You really?
Oh,
I mean, you gotta
do
pay
not
money.
enjoy them, yeah.
Do you have to? You don't have to pay money.
You have to pay money to attend a wedding.
Yeah. Usually gotta like rent a car or something.
Yeah.
B, you gotta give them a gift.
Oh.
Maybe it's out of town, so you gotta.
Maybe
drive
that's
out
why
of town.
nobody invites me to any of their weddings. So.
Like we know he just wouldn't enjoy it, so fucking.
But no,
why?
I don't get excited about the things that other people seem to get excited about. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
for me, the things that excite me are things that I really like film, like doing a podcast, like. I don't
That's
know.
good, man. You should feel grateful because I feel like a lot of the people don't even know what they're excited about. So to even know at all what excites
I guess
you,
that's fair.
think, you know.
Yeah.
So
positive.
do you get really excited to do an art piece? Like,
I imagine, yeah.
Yeah,
how long?
Yeah.
Like, and then you tell your boyfriend like you need to go. Like, does he get to stay around, or are you one of those people that's like, do
No,
not
he
bother?
can like hang out, but he knows I'm like probably not going to talk to him. Like I'm like pretty focused, and like usually I'll either put headphones in or just put music on because like I don't even like I've worked on projects with friends who like I had one friend film me while I was doing it. And
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so like before we can talk, but once I'm like doing it, it's like I was like I can't talk to you, man. Like I just gotta do this if you're gonna do it with me. You know what I mean? So. And that to me is fine. Like I don't mind having people around. It's just like I try to block them out and I try to like just get in the zone and kind of forget what else is happening around me.
Do you have this is one of my questions I actually did write down.
Oh my god, you're looking at the sheet.
Holy shit.
Do you have like, is there a particular item or tool that when you're doing your work that you have to have with you in order to do it, or are you more of an improviser when it comes to doing your abstract art?
Wait, are you talking about like a tool or like a good luck charm?
No, like a tool, like something you use to make the
Gotcha.
art.
Okay. Like during, not so much. Like I have a bunch of different tools that come in handy. Generally, I mean, like the palette knife is probably the one thing like I couldn't go without because you have to use it to like scoop the paint, put it in a thing, mix it up with the other stuff. Like it just comes in handy with even like sometimes the painting. It's like the paints haven't mixed quite the right way, and so you have to use a palette knife to like move stuff around. But I think to me the one tool overall that I couldn't live without is the resin I put over top. Because like, not that my paintings are bad without it, but like it's like I do the painting, I'm like that's good, but then I put the resin over top and it does that like it's that like clear layer on top that like really refracts the light and brings out the color and makes it just like pop, you know what I mean? And that to me is like the one thing that like any painting can't be without. Like that's the one element I never go without with all my paintings.
So every painting has
resin.
Okay,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
And how do you choose well, I guess it's a two-part question. But the first part is how do you choose which items you're going to create an art piece on? Cuz I went to your art show and you've got a variety of different things you make art on. So how do you decide, okay, you know what? I think this would be cool on this vinyl or this, like the one I really like, I think it looks like Jupiter.
Oh yeah, that was on the vinyl too.
That was on the vinyl too, right?
Yeah, that pink and white one. Yeah.
Yeah, the pink. You still have it?
Yeah.
Save it for me, please.
Okay,
I
cool.
really like that one. So how do you decide, like for that piece for example, how did you decide? I'm gonna make this on a vinyl.
So honestly, it's just like I kind of what I do always is like I always like pop into Valley Village or whatever, or I like see stuff on the side of the street and I just like pick it up. Like there's this one piece I did, that's like. It's these guys golfing, and it's like layered with different, like the trees are one layer, and then the background's another layer, and the guys golfing are another layer. And so I ended up like finding that at a bus stop that somebody had just like left there, and I was like, well, they're probably not coming back for it, so I'm gonna take it home. And so I just like pick random stuff up here and there, or I'll see something online and I'll buy it, like those little busts I did.
Wow.
And so then it's just like when I'm painting, I'm like, I don't know, like let's try this, let's try the vinyl, let's try the bust, I just pick whatever kind of feels right, and I just kind of play around.
So you're almost like a reuse.
I try.
Type of abstract artist.
Yeah.
Like you reuse things. You know what I think you would love if you ever went to Detroit, you would love the Heidelberg Project.
What's that?
Yeah. Hey Ross, can you pull up the Heidelberg? Can you Google that?
Wow.
Sorry.
We're getting next level here right now.
Sorry, I'm talking to Jamie now.
It's your young Jamie's back there.
Can you Google Heidelberg Project and put that on the screen, if possible? Let's see.
This is cool. I didn't know we could do that.
Yeah.
You could just ask stuff. Oh, cool.
Yes. If you could just look at some images. Yeah. Like, so this is an area in Detroit. This guy, he took.
What's a house?
It's a house. It's a bunch of stuff. Can you click on images? So, yeah, this is great. So
Whoa.
This guy in Detroit, he took just like random stuff, right?
I love it though. It's
and
so
this
creative.
block, I don't remember the street name, but there's this block.
Oh, so it's like a bunch of different houses.
It's a bunch of different houses. It's different stuff. Like it's a whole block of like just artwork he did.
Oh, that's cool.
So
I
feel
love
like
that.
you would love, if you went to Detroit, that would be something you would have to go see.
The one part of Detroit I saw was very scary, and I wanted to go back inside. Like, no offense, I went to
it's not all scary.
No, I know, but I like went to the equivalent of like the Bay, and I was like, everybody was so mean in there, and I was like, I just want to go get my curling iron and get out of here and go back to the hotel now, please.
Well, you were in Detroit when when you were in
I went
Detroit?
for an anime convention.
Oh wow.
Oh,
Nice.
For
was
20
it
Did you make your own
was it
costume?
No, we didn't have time. It was a quick 24-hour trip that
Thank
my
you,
friend
Ross.
and I decided to like impromptu go to. And so we drove down, went for like 6 hours, and then drove back, and then took a nap on the way back because we were so friggin' tired. But it was really fun. But yeah, it was like kind of sketchy.
I don't know exactly where you were
I
at.
don't know where I was
you know.
either.
But
Yeah.
when's the last time you were there?
Oh, that would have been like second university, so like 8 years ago.
Oh, it's changed so much.
Really, eh?
Changed so much. Even I was there in June, and for my sister's graduation, and I went to the whole university. And it's funny how universities, they don't seem to change that much while you're there. And then after I left, it seemed like so much shit changed. Like they knocked down an apartment building. They built a new dormitory. There was a new business school built. Like, and I've only been gone for like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
So like downtown, people love it. People love it. I'm trying to go back,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't live there though. I think
No, but I've heard good things. Like there's a lot of cool, like entrepreneurs and businesses that are moving in there.
there was a lot of great art in Detroit too. Like one of the things they did, one of the companies downtown, they took like certain areas and like they created like murals and stuff. So like some of the parking lots, it's just like all art if you drive through the parking lot. And then there's also the Detroit Institute of Art, the DIA, which is
better than the DEA. I don't want to be a comedian like you guys.
You're on the path already.
Yeah, that was good. That was
Make
good.
bad dad jokes. Thank you. Yeah, that's it.
There is a market.
Yeah.
The DIA has really great art, like, and it's massive. Have you ever gone to the AGO?
Yeah, I love the AGO.
I wouldn't say I love the AGO.
Well, like, it's all we got, so I love the AGO.
Is it the only art gallery in
There's a
Toronto?
Ryerson one too.
Which one?
There's something in the Ryerson too. Oh, I don't know if that's an
True,
art
and
gallery
there's
per
like
se.
stuff in Oakhead and whatever, but like that's the only like art gallery we have. Like that's like a big gallery. You know
That's
what
true.
I,
I
mean?
thought
At
there
least
would
in
be
Ontario,
other
but
ones, you know.
Yeah,
But
it's
I mean,
not the best.
if you go to a museum though, like that's really a lot of art.
Yeah.
Okay,
And-
granted, I will say the Montreal Museum is like Museum of Art is like way better than ours. It's way better.
Well, people would say everything in Montreal is better.
Yeah, it is
so,
way better there.
So
Just they speak French, which sucks. That's not way better. The rest of it's way better.
So back to your art, your process. You know, I heard you earlier talk about you got your soundtrack playing and stuff. Like, what type of music do you listen to when you're doing art? And does it have to be a certain genre of music, or is it usually a mix going through?
It's a mix. So, but it has to be either an album or a mix. Like I can't, because otherwise I'm
Really?
just like clicking through songs and I like it's too distracting.
You don't
and
do
I
like
gotta-
do you have Spotify?
I do.
You
I don't
just
pay
plug
for
in
it.
all the things.
I know,
Yeah.
right? I should say.
Spotify, please sponsor this podcast. We're so very
Sponsor
poor.
my life.
Please. We're starving out here. I bought Subway for dinner. It was terrible.
So on that note though, is there like a particular emotion that drives your art that you're trying to express, or like a feeling or anything like that?
Sometimes I'm really like pissed off or something, you know, and that's like where it comes out.
So
but
you
generally
are an
it's
angry
not.
artist
potent.
sometimes.
Sometimes, like very
feeling.
few times, but sometimes. Because that's the thing. Like I do it whenever I just have the time and I make the time for it, and that's kind of my thing. But it depends on how I'm feeling, and even sometimes like I'm totally uninspired. Like I've had I think 2 sessions where I can think of that I was like sitting there and nothing was turning out good, and I was just like, and it made me more frustrated. But it was like, you have to go through those moments. You guys know, like sometimes you have to have those dips in your creativity to appreciate like when you are feeling super creative and feeling in your flow, and then also just like feeling good. You know, like you need both. But it makes.
Do you
it
just
better
walk
when you
away
are
from
good.
the art though when you're having those lulls in creativity? Because I know that they're always gonna be there, so I force myself to still try to do and make stuff when I'm in those lulls, and I get just so angry and irritated that I'm just like,
Yeah, I would have to say I'm the same way.
Yeah.
You know, especially like when I feel like it's almost there, like I have something that's there and I just can't quite figure out what it is.
Yeah.
I have
That's
to
better
step
than
away.
having nothing.
I mean,
I have so many times where I have nothing, and I'm just like, but I still
well, so like
gotta do
even
something.
and let's talk about like joke writing for
Right.
example. Like we have different processes. I don't actually
Sure.
write anything down.
Really?
No,
You're like
I
Biggie.
don't.
That's sick. You dope, man.
I don't write anything down. Like as far as like, you know, you probably would write out the whole thing. Maybe if I have an idea, like I think one time, sometimes we're shooting the shit and maybe I'll say something, he'll laugh and he's like, that's funny. And I'll write down like the thought, but not the whole thing out. But what I usually do is I'll record myself saying the joke.
Yeah.
right? So
That's
like
good though. You can hear your cadence, your timing.
exactly,
all that, you know. What I mean?
so like, and I use it
You can hear if
on.
you're doing any weird voices.
So
Yeah,
and
Harris.
but I also try jokes like things stick in my head.
Mm.
For example, I have this joke about how when I moved to Toronto, I started I needed to I started watching the news to figure out what type of issues I should worry about, like syrup shortages and shit like that, maple syrup
That is
shortages.
what we worry about up here. Yes.
And I have this joke about like CP24. And it's like how CP24 is like your standard free channel. Like you buy a new TV, you get it free. Like it just goes. It's the one channel you get, right? And I think about that because I think it's funny, but I don't know, right? And I never try out material.
At open mics?
At
Categorically true. Yes.
I never try out material like on stage until I've tried it with like other people, like saying it. And
Just
if
like
they,
person to person, like you and me.
exactly.
Okay.
So like maybe I'll say something and if you laugh, and which I realized was I was watching comedians in cars getting coffee, and there was one with Eddie Murphy, and that was his same actual process. Was that he would say stuff and people would laugh and he'd write it down, you know?
Interesting.
So like I now obviously if he had a recorder, he probably would record it.
Yeah.
You know, you can do everything with your phone.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to record stuff. But
yeah, so how does that work for an art? Like, do you ever have like bits as an artist that you're like, hey, I want to do this later? Like, do you ever make notes that you come back to? Like, oh, really?
Like sometimes. So like, I have like a random list of like ideas of like one of the ones was like I was trying to figure out how to. I love graffiti artists. I love murals, but I can't do my art on a wall. Like it doesn't work because it has to be horizontal, has to be flat, and then I can put it up on a wall. But like I can never just do a mural. So I was trying to figure it out, and then I was talking to my one friend, and we were like smoking some weed, and he was like, "Why don't you just like do some like tiles, like bathroom tiles?" And I was like, "Oh, that's so smart because they're you have them horizontally laid flat." And you could do it all, and then you could put it over the wall, put some grout on it, and call it a day. And then you have a mural in a way, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's so smart. So I wrote that down. There's like a couple other ideas where I've seen
cool.
other things that have
Yeah, that's
inspired me
cool.
and want to try that. So I've played around with those ideas and like written them down. But yeah, there's like an ongoing list of like, I want to try to maybe do this thing. I just don't know how, but like it's something to think about. And it kind of, I find it's always percolating in the back of my mind. You know?
Well, I guess how would you execute that? Would you just go to like Home Depot and get some tiles and then just like set them?
Yeah.
Set them up on a
like on a board or something.
Like what do you put under your artwork to make sure like paint doesn't get on your floor and stuff like that?
Well, I have a plastic sheet that I bought a roll of plastic sheeting and I just like tape it up everywhere.
Kind of like Dexter.
Yeah, exactly. So I also kill people, but it's all very clean and there's no evidence, so we're good.
Yeah, you can find her on Airbnb
Yeah.
under experiences.
Yes.
So going back, we talked a little bit about value of the artwork. Like, how do you yourself determine how you value an art piece?
So I try to
as far as monetary.
Like, so for sure I cover cost in terms of just materials. I don't count labor because like right now it just doesn't make sense, or else people would be paying a lot more than I think I'd want them to pay, and even people would want to pay. And I'm trying to make I want it to be accessible again. Like I want it to be, I don't want to charge me like $1,000 for a tiny little piece. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to be hoity-toity art. I want to be art that's accessible to everybody in so many different ways, especially financially. Because I think you should surround yourself with things that inspire you. And if that happens to be my art, that would be awesome. And I would be happy to have that, for you to have that in your home, you know? But, so usually I'll take the material cost and then I'll just like, I don't know, tack on a number that feels good on top of it. And like, I usually go by size. So like my small pieces are around 50. The medium pieces are like 100 to 200. And then the bigger pieces are like 300 plus, depending on how big. But I try to make it reasonable. I don't want to, even though I think like I probably could get away with like that 36 by 36, I could have charged her $1,000. Like instead I charged her way less. Cause I think like,
do you ever feel like you undercharge for pieces?
all the time. But it's also like, and the hard part is you're starting out, so you're like, I don't know, like, to me, it's like you kind of have to get the cred by selling a bunch of pieces and eventually incrementally, you know, increasing it and going, okay, maybe $40 extra next time, you know what I mean? And slowly you can start to, I think, also test out your market and see, like, what's a comfortable price range, and then where does it cap out? Maybe if you go $40 above that, do people not want to buy it anymore? You know, because before, at the beginning, like, some pieces I was charging like way too much, and I would be like, it'd be like a $400 piece, and it'd be like a good size, but like none of my friends are paying $400. Nobody has $400 to just drop. You know what I mean? So I had one guy do it, but that was it.
Yeah, one guy paid $400 for a piece.
$350, but yeah.
Oh, okay. You should have routed it up to 4. Just
That's okay.
She did, but you asked her.
He knows.
Yeah.
It's in my brain.
So, when you're doing these art pieces and stuff, right? Like you don't sketch anything at all on a piece of paper. Like if you have an idea, like I know we talked about you jot ideas down.
Yeah.
That you want to do later, but you don't like have an way of like just drawing it to see if you have it visually on paper, because sometimes I know there's some people that like there's one thing to have it in their mind and there's another thing that's like see it out visually before they do it. Like are you a person that's like, it's in my mind, I know, and then I just go?
Yeah, like I get the rough idea and that's all I can really work off of because it's abstract, but it's tough because like even in high school my high school teacher or my art teacher was always like you have to do the study, and I'm like, I just don't want to fucking do it. Like, can I just do the piece? And she was like, no, like this is part of the whole thing. You have to do the study to know what you're doing, so then you can replicate it, and you've tried out some things. You know what I mean? But the hard part is, so recently I was working on a potential commission for a customer, and like I did like 12 studies because she kind of didn't know the direction, and I didn't really know what direction she wanted to go. So I was like, I'll just play around, and like this is a really big, expensive one if she does say yes.
Sorry,
so
what's a study?
So study is like a mini version of a painting.
Okay, okay.
So, like, I was charging her, like, $600 if she wanted the big piece. So it was like, okay, I'd be happy to do these studies for you because, like, if you're going to give me $600, I'll do anything. You know what I mean? I'll kill whoever you want. So, like,
You
again,
got the plastic
Airbnb.
wrap.
Experiences.
Yeah. And so I did them, and, like, I realized, at least right now, I don't know if that's going to be forever, but right now my stage of, like, my skill level, let's say, it's really hard to do studies of my paintings on a small scale because the size of the painting does inform kind of what's going to happen in a way. So I can't, she wanted a really big piece, and I can't do a small version of a big piece. It just, I couldn't get the paints to do the same thing on a smaller scale. It's very, I don't know if it makes any sense.
The composition doesn't make quite the sense.
Yeah, it just didn't like flow as right. So I did these things that were like, I mean, I could do them on a big scale, but I was like, I don't know, they probably would turn out way different even then, you know what I mean? Like I just didn't feel good about it. So yeah. I don't know if that answers.
Do you ever do collaborations?
No, but I would love to. I've talked to a lot of people about it, but I do want to because like I think it'd be really cool to have like illustrative stuff over top of my backgrounds, you know, or over top of my like abstract pieces, you know,
Right?
Because it could be like a background for something, but
Right.
yeah, just a lot of like ideas thrown out there with other people, but just not a lot of like coordination and like finding the right time together. You know what I mean?
Right. It's also hard to find people who you actually like get along with and
Totally,
could work
and connect with
too.
that way.
Yeah.
Because like even with like you guys, like would you feel comfortable doing like an act, let's say, with somebody else? Like
I would
maybe
be.
No.
I would be comfortable doing it with Harris. Yeah.
An act, like a comedy act.
like
I
you know,
mean,
like was it bumping mics?
Yeah,
With, like, David
with
Tellman,
David
yeah.
Tell and
Like almost like that, but maybe not that. You know what I
oh
mean?
my goodness, I don't know.
when I think of collaboration, I would think me and him putting our own show together or something, and we
Yeah.
would have a set time at, you know, X amount of time for him, X amount of time for us. I mean, for me, but it's our show, you know. But like to like be on stage at the same time, it's kind of weird because like every comedian is different.
Yeah.
You know, like they have different personalities.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like,
Because it seems like a very individualistic thing you guys do. You know what I mean? Like
because
it's
a lot of it is
kinda.
like, I mean, just like art is so subjective in
Yeah.
anything, right? And it's a lot of it is based on experience.
yeah.
You know, so like my jokes are gonna be different from his jokes, like, but there's similar concepts. For example, he has jokes about being from Pakistan, coming to Canada. I have jokes about.
Wait, you're not white?
No.
That was interesting.
it's the white guy confidence that I bring
Yeah.
that really sells
Just really own it, you know?
Yeah, I
I
try.
respect that.
So like we have similar jokes about like he's from Pakistan and coming to Canada, and I have
Yeah.
jokes about like being
Spoiler alert.
about being an American and growing up in Canada and how like things like that, the differences, the similarities, stuff like that. So, but I mean, it's all art is all about experience. I feel for the most part,
Yeah.
you know.
No, I agree.
So I really hate that I say so every time I'm about to ask a question. Like I'm trying to.
But I know
Like,
it's coming.
So
It's
just don't
so-
do it.
What's your favorite part about being an abstract artist? Do you feel like as an abstract artist you have more creative freedom or less creative freedom than like a visual artist of a different style?
I think that to me is a two-part question. I think I think my favorite part would be just seeing or how other people connect with it, or what other people see in it, or what other people get from it, because it's totally different each time. You know what I mean? Like,
do you get that feedback from your?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like my boyfriend, for example, has like the first piece I ever did.
He has it, like he owns it.
Well, like I gave it to him because I was like, I have nowhere to put this in my house. Like, can I put it in your apartment? And he was like, sure. So I just like put it up in his wall.
But now you guys live together, right?
Yeah. So I have it back now. So it's mine again. It's fine.
Full circle.
Yeah. Everything his is mine, right? So, and I guess it's ours also, but it's mostly mine. Kidding. I love you, honey. But no, it's cool because like he's had friends over and they've been like, oh, like I see this or I see that or whatever, and he's told me all these things, and it's kind of interesting just like seeing what people connect with, and even the pieces that we put up in our house that are mine because I have nowhere else to store them. It's like some people will be like, oh, that's really cool, and other people will be like, oh, I love that one, and then like again, some people will be like, I love that one, and I'm like, I hate that one. What the fuck? Yeah, so that's really interesting.
Wait, do you have pieces in your home now that you don't like? That are hung up because you had a lot of art.
Not the ones I've hung up. No, I generally like all of those. I think except
so it's the one that's on
maybe.
The floor that you don't like.
Yeah. You know it. Actually, though, there's one in the top right corner of our living room behind the couch that I don't know if you noticed it, but I don't really love that one.
Behind the couch.
Behind the couch.
Oh, like above.
Above the couch. Sorry, yeah.
Not like
wait, wasn't
I hate it so much. I hid it behind the couch.
Like,
it's up.
I didn't see it there.
I definitely don't think I was ever over there. I only remember the book. There was a bookshelf, right?
Yeah. It's like beside the bookshelf.
Okay, so
like,
I didn't see.
But on
behind.
the other side, it's fine.
I mean, like I said, you had art everywhere, so
I know.
I don't remember that piece at all.
No, it's okay.
So sorry, what was your story about the piece? Like,
no, I just like didn't like that one, so that's the only one I think I don't like that is up on our walls.
So wait, why don't you like it? What is it about that? Is it your own piece? Is it your piece? So why don't you like that piece?
I just like, I don't know. I finished it and I didn't want to waste the paint, so I like I did the resin on top. I still didn't like love it. It was interesting, but I didn't love it, and it was just like I don't feel confident that anybody wants to buy this. You know what I mean? And I just kind of like it didn't really make me feel a ton. It kind of is cool because it looks kind of stormy to me and like very dark. But other than that, it was like I just think there's so many other pieces I love so much more that it's like that one's like that's like the kid in the family you don't love. You know what I mean? That's like the one you're like, yeah, he's all right. Like I had him and I love him, but like less so than the others. Like
so you do have
choice.
like an emotional attachment to some of your pieces.
Totally. It's really hard to let go of some of my pieces.
Yeah, so there's like some nostalgia. And plus you probably remember the process that it took. Like you said, art is all about experience. So like you have the experience you had creating that piece, whatever you're going on through your life and shit like that. So like
does your process have a transformative effect? Like is your art that you make totally reflective of the mood that you're in when you make it, or sometimes it transports you to a different like feeling?
Does it create the mood for you? I guess you're trying to say.
I think it more so creates the mood, and I think it like to me it's like not so much about the mood I feel at the time of making it, but it's like when I'm done making it and I'm done all my art, it's like I literally feel like I've just released a certain energy that like if I don't make art, like after a couple weeks I get weird and antsy and I can feel it in my bones. Like I just there's some sort of thing there, which I'm sure you guys probably get about just being creative, you know what I mean? And being able to release that creative energy and explore it.
Well, I've been putting myself on a schedule, so it's like weird. I have to like balance between like having actual creative energy and then like because I'm forcing myself and just like, I'm just making stuff that's bad because I have to force myself to keep doing it, and that's kind of weird. I feel
balance. Like for myself, I get creative energy at the wrong time where I can't execute it. For
during
example,
sex? Like, girl, hold on. I got a great idea. It's a great joke. You're going to love it. Hold on. I'll be right back.
No. But, like, if I'm at work
true.
or if I'm, like, at an event, you know what I mean, and I'm think of something. Or, like, last night I got an idea, and somebody I wanted to be involved in the idea, and I text them I had to text them right away, like, hey, I have this idea. I would love for you to be a part of it. She ultimately said no, but I got time to like convince her to do it. Okay. But I feel like sometimes like when I have a great idea and I want to work on it, I can't work on it at that moment. Another time is like I feel like this happens to everybody. It's like when you need to go to sleep.
But you can control some of these things though, right? Like the more you start just making a habit of all this stuff, like the more.
But I feel like you can't control when the creative stuff is flowing, right? Like when it's really flowing, you have an idea. Like
Yeah,
you
but
can't
if you
control
sit down and set times to be creative, you're more likely to have one of those moments while you're sitting.
But then I feel like that's not being creative. Like you're trying to structurize.
Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I don't.
You
I
gotta
feel like
structurize, man. If you're gonna be serious about it, you
no.
have
I agree with you. You do have to have structure,
Mhm.
and I don't even know if structurize is a word. I hope it is.
It is now. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
But I just I don't like to give myself, like, I'll give myself tasks,
Mm-hmm.
right, of things I need to do. Like, for example, I need to create the outline and I need to send it to Chloe and Harris, or I need to, like, make sure that I send this email to that person, like, stuff like that I can do.
Yeah.
But, like, to actually tell myself to sit down and think of ideas, I can't do that.
Well, that's what the FOMO is that I was talking about earlier, because it's like I just set a thing of like 30 minutes, like sit down, write ideas or whatever abstract thing that you're doing, and it's like you feel dumb because it's like sometimes, you know, the ideas just don't come.
I mean, and that happens, but I feel like brainstorming for me, and I know everybody in school has always been taught to brainstorm and stuff like that, and I find brainstorming only works for me if the creative flow is going already, right? Then I can write down an idea. I can't tell myself to take this time to, like, come up with ideas and brainstorm them and write them down and then figure out a plan to execute them.
But I feel like most successful people I've ever, like, listened to, it's like Stephen King, Joe Rogan, all these people, like, they are, like, I mean, they are everyday people, which I know is hard, but they have a different schedule. But, like, every day they take, like, 10, 15, 20 minutes the other day to do the thing that they do and practice it. Because, again, it is a muscle, right? Your brain's a muscle. And, like, yeah, you might not be able to always channel the creative energy at that time. But if you're practicing always, I think it is furthering your craft regardless. And it's getting you in that headspace for that craft and exploring some of those types of ideas and at least pushing you in that direction. Because you do need practice. You know
So is
what I
that something you do, even if you can't work on a large art piece? You take the time to, like,
yeah, I'll just pull out the paints and, like, mix some stuff up, and, like, especially with, like, a lot of new techniques I've been seeing recently, it's like I just want to try that thing out and see what it does, and, like, kind of have an idea so that if I do it on a piece next time, I can kind of have a bit of a better direction for it. But it's like, yeah, sometimes it's like I have no goal other than to just hopefully make a bunch of stuff, but if not, I'll just paint over it, which is kind of the nice thing too. It's like if I fuck it up, I just, like, paint over it.
So do you have a lot of practice pieces where you have painted over it and made it into something else?
Yeah, especially, like, some of the pieces, not that people would notice, but you can, like, to me, pick them up and, like, they're significantly heavier because they have, like, 4 layers of paint on it.
Thicker,
you know what I mean? Yeah, it's, like, definitely heavier. Even the vinyls, like, some of them are way thicker.
So then what's, like, as we were talking, like, do you set aside time to, like, try to get the creative juices flowing for ideas and stuff? And if it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day, or...
Not really. Like, I don't know. And it's, like, probably hypocritical for me to tell you to do all that, but, like, not do it myself. But, I mean, like, I write them down whenever I think of them, and I have that ongoing list I was telling you about. But then also, like, for me, I think what helps me in a lot of ways, and also in art, but in many other aspects of my life, is just meditating every day. That's what I try to do every day, and that's my exercise for my brain.
But that I feel like that also gives you peace of mind or something, right? Like, meditating is good.
Totally.
I find for,
helps
like,
you calm
stress,
yourself, your thoughts,
and
organize
meditation also for me helps with sleeping.
Your thoughts. Oh yeah.
Like I don't know what it is about hearing that very soothing voice telling me to make sure my feet are planted gently onto the ground and feel that white ball of energy go all the way from your head down to your stomach, you know. Like, but
you've done a class recently.
Yeah, I do, because sometimes, like, for me, the things that I do, I don't know if this is strange, but, like, talking or, like, podcasts or meditation, they always make me feel very comfortable to sleep, you know. But I can't listen to them to create, if that makes any sense. You know, like, I can listen to a podcast to, like, for example, if I'm writing an outline for a podcast, I can't listen to a podcast to write the outline.
No, it's too much concentration on both.
Yeah,
totally.
I have to listen to, like, and I can't listen to music with words. When I need to focus, I can't listen to music with words. I have to listen to, like, chill jazz or, you know,
You should
something.
try video game music. Works really well.
Oh, it's
for that.
great. Yeah.
Really?
There's no lyrics. It's meant to make you focus.
Yeah.
On
Pro
the
tip.
game, though.
Pardon me?
On the game, though.
No, there's Spotify playlists
Yeah.
for it. Spotify has everything you need.
Yeah.
For your creative needs. Yeah.
I couldn't. Do you use?
Oh,
is
yeah.
you use video game music too?
Well, like, there's just some video game soundtracks that to me are so brilliantly done.
Yeah.
Like, Chrono Trigger is really good. Life Formed is really good. Like, some podcast or some soundtracks are just, like, it's such good music. And I love, like, both music with words and music with no words. It doesn't matter to me. But it definitely, the music with no words, you can, for sure, I find, get into that zone and that flow state way easier.
So wait, when you're doing a piece though, is it music with words or music without words?
That's both.
It's both.
And if it's music with words, like, I tend towards the stuff that I know so well that I can sing along with it, because that's just fun for me. But, like, it depends. Yeah.
Okay.
Depends on my mood. Sometimes I want to listen to rock. Sometimes I want to listen to, like, electronic. Sometimes I want to listen to, like, weird jazz/session music.
I could
all
never
over the place.
listen
I've been
to
listening
rock.
to jazz lately, actually.
Jazz is really good. You know what's also good? And I'll send you
Lots
guys a
of
couple
stuff?
of tracks
Yeah.
that I listen to. One on YouTube is like I think it's called like chill hop,
Oh, I love chill hop.
which is
Yeah.
like jazzy hip hop.
Yeah.
And it's like it's nice because it's like it's relaxing, but it's not too relaxing that you go to sleep. Then you got a little
Yes.
bit of like the hip hop bass, like not too heavy,
Yeah.
a little
But it's
light.
enough to keep the energy up.
Exactly. So my next question for you.
Mm.
I don't know if this is gonna be a crazy question, but I always like to ask questions like this. So define for you like what abstract art is.
Mm.
Define the indefinable.
Yes, exactly. Literally anything
And go.
but formless art, basically. Anything formless. Really, that's it. I think like abstract is really just anything that is in a concrete form. It's not like, an apple or a human figure or whatever. It's just whatever. And I think too you can see elements of abstract art in non-abstract art. It's really kind of interesting how, like, I love when you see artists pulling inspiration from different sources, whether it's different like types of art or whatever. Because I think like it's even like with music. Like I hate that people are like, like, oh, this band, they've changed, man. It's like, well, yeah, they're trying out a little bit of jazz and they're rock and it sounds freaking dope. Like, why do you have to be a specific genre? I think like there should be great things in everything, and why not draw from all those?
Yeah, I feel like that's a human problem, like
Oh,
just the need for everything to be standardized.
Labeled.
You
We
know.
love classifying
Yeah,
things.
we
That's
love-
the way our brain works. You know
And
what I mean?
I just find that like I don't. I've learned to not listen to advice that much. I know that sounds crazy. Like I do. I know.
Nothing we're saying matters to him at all. We may as well not be here.
No, when I say advice, and I feel like I'm gonna clarify it really good.
Only his advice is worth listening to. Yes.
No, because like people give you advice based on the way they would do something.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I find that like the way they would do something may not necessarily work for you.
Well, I
You
think
know.
if they're not where you want to be or haven't done anything you want to do, why would you take advice from them? Because they obviously don't know shit about what you're trying to do. You know what I mean?
But I mean, I think that even if they are at a place where you kind of want to be, sometimes it's still kind of formulaic. Like my thing is like, if everybody is following that advice, then how do you differentiate yourself from everybody else? Like you have to find a way to like distinguish yourself from everybody else still.
That's the art part, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
it's
agree.
like, you get a lot of process and like that kind of stuff from these people, and kind of have the self-awareness to take out what works for you and then get rid of the rest, and then kind of try to structure the art part to find, your own thing within that.
Yeah. It's like finding your own flavor within that thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Because think about like,
Which is the hardest part, really, because
Yeah.
like you don't want to be derivative or.
well,
I mean,
yeah, so many
yeah.
comedians, like you can tell there's like a certain number of types of types of comedy, let's say, but like you could have two people who are both very successful in that one type of comedy, but are so very different and are their own type of person. You know what I mean?
I
At
can
the same time.
tell you a thing that fears me with comedy, and has actually already happened to me, is coming up with the same joke as another comedian.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it has to be something that has happened
I'm
more
sure
often.
it happens all the time,
Yeah.
man.
But it happened to me. I came up with a joke.
It's like, but how could it happen to me?
Well, I gotta say, a part of me
I'm
was
so amazing and perfect.
Yeah.
Why
do
me?
bad things happen to good
Yeah.
people?
Yeah. Why do bad things happen to good people?
so, so I was kind of discouraged. To be honest with you.
Discouragement is a very big part of the artistic process, though. Yeah.
But I think it's a good push to like be like, okay, if you're gonna do that same joke, how are you gonna do it better? You know what I mean?
I feel like I can't do it because it was a famous comedian that did the joke. So now I can't do that joke anymore because now it's his joke.
But I mean, I've heard the story before. I feel like you should be encouraged that, you know, you came up with a joke that's the same caliber as a famous comedian.
No,
Yeah,
I
that's a good way
did.
of looking at it.
No,
Write it off, and you know.
I did think about that. No,
Yeah.
for sure. But I also feel like I'm one of those people. Fear definitely like takes over.
What are you
Like-
afraid of?
You know what?
Spiders,
I
the
feel
dark?
like I feel like, and I don't know if anybody else has ever experienced this. Like, parts of me is I'm afraid of success. You know, like I'm.
Yeah, that makes
No, I
sense.
agree with that. Yeah.
I'm
It's a
afraid
lot
of
of
getting
pressure.
to and I feel like I don't know. I always worry about like being more scrutinized. You know what I mean? Because you always, especially we work in the art. Like we're in this art field, right? Visual artist, comedy, all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's the most like opinionated, the most like broken down field, right? So like
In terms of having critics.
yeah, it's the
Yeah.
most people are the most critical
Yeah.
in these areas, right? And I think I guess that's FOMO, right? So like that definitely happens to me.
I think you might need to work on that.
I think you still don't know what
Still
FOMO
don't
means.
think you get it. I was gonna go with him, but I was like, I don't think that made sense.
I'm glad you called him out.
I said it's kind of like FOMO.
It's like, I'm on his podcast. I don't want to be a dick. But
Good effort, though.
Appreciate it. But like, do you experience that like fear of like success, like fear of like
Totally. Well, like in terms of, so I see like there's a lot of like abstract artists I look up to, and just generally artists I look up to, where I try to learn my lessons from and be like, okay, well maybe if they did this, I can try that and maybe emulate that, and maybe that's how I can maybe be a bit more successful. But then I see them also like there's one girl who I absolutely love, Sophie T, and she literally paints like 8 days a week. You know what I mean? Like it's just like that girl is always. Her story is always her in the studio doing the next thing, having a show per month, which is insane because she pumps out like 20, 30 pieces. And like just watching her go through everything, it's like, okay, like that's, and I see how much she charges for each piece. She sells out of every single piece.
wow.
And it's great, but then she's making shit tons of money. But it's also like, okay, you work every day of your life. Yeah, you have some vacations, but like you literally never stop doing something. You know what I mean? And I don't know if I want that. And and like it's like, okay, so what am I willing to go up, and where does that stop? You know what I mean? And I think that's a really important question that I constantly ask myself. Like,
That's a very tough one these
Yeah,
days.
like,
'Cause
what do you
there's
wanna
like
give
a
it? What
hustle culture
Yeah.
where it's like you gotta
Yeah.
just do it all the time, and then there's like the be mindful and take care. It's like how do you balance the two?
Yeah.
It's like, well, how do you know what's like a productive middle versus like, okay, I'm procrastinating on this end and
Yeah.
like just emotionally abusing myself on this end.
exactly.
Yeah, do you ever have those moments where you're just going and you're like, you know what, I need to take a break?
Yeah, sometimes you feel really burnt out. This past month, actually, so I did that show you came to at the Mod Club. Then I did another show the following, like the same Sunday in that week. And then, like this weekend, I have a show. Well, not a show, but it's like this girl I know. She's like doing a birthday party, but it's also like a charity fundraiser for a friend who has MS. So I said I'd do that and whatever and try to sell art, and I'm giving part of the proceeds to her. And so it's just like a lot. And like that 1 week where we had the 2 shows, especially in 1 week, it was like just craziness and trying to figure out rides and whatever. And I had work also. Like I work like 6 days a week, so it was like I was just being a crazy person. And it's like you kind of gotta be selective with your time. But yeah, again, like how do you know? And so it's like
hard.
going through this whole year of doing art shows and whatever, it's like I've realized like, okay, like these things are worth my time that I know of, and these things are definitely not worth my time that I know of. And it's like constantly trial and error. But I definitely feel overwhelmed by like both the crushing weight of like existence and like the crushing pressure that I put on myself for like trying to like get it and do it, and you know what I mean, and do all that shit.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the art pieces you do you have an overall story you want your art to tell to people? And does each piece do you want it to tell a different story?
I think now that I'm further into it and I've been doing it for a couple of years, I can actually, I didn't go into it with like a common thread, but I can kind of see it now. And it's like, I just want to transport people somewhere else. Like especially with the vinyl pieces. Like I've been able to make these really cool.
Took me to Jupiter.
Yeah, right. Like it's cool. It's like these interesting planets or like intergalactic landscapes, I call them, or whatever. You know, it's like I just love being able to take someone somewhere else and make them see something totally different. And that's what I want. Like that's where I'm trying to push my art to, is to try to get people to just see something totally interesting and different, and to go, oh, interesting. Like what the fuck is that? You know what I mean? I just want people to see that. So.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's great.
as long as people connect with it, I'm happy in whatever way that is. You know, like I'm just when people are like, "Oh, that's so cool!" Like that comment gives me more joy than anything else.
Do you ever do you get people to get different interpretations from the same piece?
Oh yeah, like some people see planets, some people see mountains, some people see like in the same piece. It's like it's totally all over the place.
So what do you see when the Jupiter piece? Because maybe I'm like thinking is everybody sees Jupiter.
No, I saw a planet. Yes.
Okay.
And I didn't see Jupiter, but I see what you mean when you said Jupiter. Then I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So yeah.
So I got 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
Wow.
So
Yeah, I shouldn't have brought you guys.
Too late, sucker. Already
Question
booked this
number
thing.
1.
Yeah.
So I always like to. I'm starting to do this thing where I like to ask this question, right? And it applies to anything, right? Would you prefer to be the first at something or the best at something?
Best.
Best? Just hands down.
But if you're the first, you could have a good chance at being the best. Whereas
Yes.
if you're the best, it doesn't matter. So
Right, so if
it's
you're the
right
best, it's
answer.
ultimate.
Yeah.
That's how I think of it. But you are right. I think being the first would be really cool because, like, if, like, especially I think about, like, the birth of hip-hop. Like, being the first people to, like, create a totally different type of sound, a totally different way of singing, and, like, a whole new, like, a rap, which is not singing at all. Like, you know what I mean? That's really cool, and that's really fucking amazing. And, like, you will forever be gods, you know what I mean, in that respect.
Yeah.
But then there are some people who are the first, like, the first black woman to walk on the moon. I don't know who it is. Oh, no, sorry. First black woman to go into space, I guess. I can't remember her name. I just know there was one. You know what I mean? So, like,
Jermaine.
Wow, he knows.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, shit, that's pretty good.
Shit. I forgot her name. I can't
See?
believe
There we
it.
go.
Yeah.
I know her.
It better be Jermaine something.
Hey, Google.
It's I want to say it's Jenny. This is bad. I know too.
I know.
But we'll talk about it post show.
We'll Google it post show. And that's the thing. It's like, I don't know, like, first is great, but yeah, I think best is overall best. You know?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I'd rather rock it at something than just be the first. Because, like, just because you're the first, like, sometimes it's kind of like, because I'm Asian, especially when they're like, it's the first Asian person to do this thing. And I'm like, okay, like, whatever. We could really gonna single out, like, we could be like, that's the first amputee person to do this thing. And that's the first, whatever, do this thing. Like, you know, I just think.
well, you could be both.
Amputee and Asian?
No.
Oh, okay. Yes, you can, technically.
Yeah.
You could be both the first and the best at
That's
something.
true. That'd be the ideal situation.
You
Yeah.
know. I mean, I
Like
don't know
Bill
if
Gates.
that's
Yeah,
I don't-
true.
Bill Gates. I wouldn't say he was.
I don't know. I was just trying to
the
think of
first.
people.
He wasn't the first. I wouldn't say he was the best either.
I don't know. I was trying to think of an example this whole time. That's what
Maybe
had.
I would say right now it probably would be like Elon Musk.
Yeah, probably.
He's probably the first to do what he's doing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he's probably the best.
Okay, what do you
Dude.
guys think of the Tesla truck? You saw?
I keep seeing like memes about it, but I'd never
Yeah, it
really
looks
seen
kinda
like.
ugly.
Okay, but I know. To me, not ugly. It just looks very different. But I think,
Yes.
like, you know, he's experimenting. I like that. you
Yeah.
know? I like
Well,
that he's trying
I like Elon Musk. I wish only
Yeah.
the best of success for him.
I know. I wish his whatever third marriage or whatever he's on is success now.
Oh,
Yeah.
is he on his third
Something
marriage?
like that. He's, like, been with a lot of women.
Yeah. He's Canadian or South African.
No, he's South
Canadian.
African.
I was like-
But he lived in Canada or something.
He's probably lived everywhere in the world, man. He probably owns an island somewhere.
He probably just has, like, AI robots of himself living everywhere in every country.
He's
Yeah.
Is
You
your
just don't
next
know yet.
question about artificial intelligence?
So my final question is just to ask you about any project you got going on. I know you talked about the show you're doing,
Yeah.
but
No, I think I would like I mean, not a lot of shows coming up, which is actually for the best. I think I'm kind of done with shows for the most part. There's only a couple I would do that seem worth it in many ways, but I think in terms of projects, I'm just finishing up my friend's bass guitar, which is pretty cool, and I'm doing a motorcycle soon,
Wow.
Nice.
which I'm really excited
Wow.
about.
Wow.
Yeah, because I'm stoked. If I can get that right, it's like a very particular process that needs a lot of prep work. But if I can get that right, like that'd be really freaking cool. Because I love being able to work with different surfaces. Like I love being able to push it and just see like what I can apply it to. Because I think like canvases are fun, but canvases are kind of getting boring to me. You know what I mean? Or at least the square or rectangular canvas. And I think like the vinyls are cool and like the busts are cool and whatever. And so like
You're
that's a
out of
really
the box
interesting-
artist.
I like to be, and plus like you gotta set yourself apart. You know what I mean? And I love to like when I show people like the guitar or whatever, or even I can't wait to show people the motorcycle. Like it's just gonna be like, whoa, you made that. You know what I mean? Like I love that reaction of like, holy shit, that's awesome.
Yeah. Somebody like it's somebody's motorcycle that they want to.
Well, he bought the body and he puts together motorcycles. My friend's just really into them, and so he is going to give me the body before he puts it all together. Let me paint it, and then he's like, if you end up like, if he's going to drive it around, and he's like, he goes to motorcycle conventions, whatever, and meetups. So he's like, hopefully it'll be free advertising for you, and I'm like, cool. It's just a sick project I get to work on. Because that's the thing. That's what kind of fulfills me is just like getting to do interesting projects that like I've come to terms, I think, for the most part, with the idea of like if I never make it as an artist, like. At least I tried, and I'm glad I tried, and that's it. But, like, you know.
Do you have a signature? Like a signature, you know how people, obviously you have artists that sign, but you have.
figured it out.
Oh, okay. So, because you know how some artists have, like, they sign their name, obviously, but they also, there's something they do the same thing in each art piece.
Oh, gotcha. No.
No?
Abstract.
How do you feel about being, the face of the brand? Is branding a thing that you think about?
Yeah, all the time. It's like, I'm realizing more and more, like, it's less, like, making it is less about the art and more about the business. It's like probably like 60-40 or 70-30.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like so frustrating because it's like every artist just wants to make the art. They don't want to do that fucking other bullshit because that's why they didn't get an office job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like,
but it's kind of more fun in this type of setting doing this work than compared to an office setting because it's like you're doing it for yourself.
Very true.
Yeah. But if you hate it, then you're kind of fucked.
Yeah. No, totally. And that's the thing. It's like with the marketing and stuff, it's like I'm learning. I'm like learning how to love the process of it.
Yeah.
But it's still like sometimes I'm like I don't love posting on Instagram. I have this
Me
app
neither.
that does it all in advance. And at the end of this, well, now actually, like in a week, it's gonna run out of the posts I preset for the last month, and I'm like, oh shit, yeah. And now I gotta do all that work again. And it's only like an hour's worth of work, but I'm just like creating content.
What is
really
your
hard.
strategy with that? I need help with that too.
I will totally help you.
Same here.
Yeah. Honestly, it's just like I just like post all the I upload all the pictures I can, and I'll just keep uploading as I go and as I get them, and I'll just like try to create captions or like just put little emojis or something or song lyrics and just try to fill content because I know it doesn't totally matter the caption, but it helps. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
My one friend, he's been doing this cool thing. He's a photographer, and he always puts a song that he loves underneath it as a caption. And it's such a great idea, but it's like I can't do that now because now it just looks like I'm a copycat asshole.
Who gives a crap? I mean, there's so much.
There's so many copycats on like Instagram and all that.
Yeah, I've been thinking of doing that too because I have a lot of photos that I take that I have like no use for as a comedian. But I'm like, maybe if I can put some sort of like witty something on them, I can at least use them and share them.
Yeah. Well, maybe I don't know if I don't know if it works, but like crafting a joke around them, is that hard?
Yeah, maybe.
But because your photos are really good. Like I love your stuff, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
They are really good. All right, we got to wrap it up.
Okay.
I really appreciate you guys coming.
Thank you for having us.
Harris,
thank you for having me.
thank you for co-hosting.
No problem.
How can people learn more about you, man? Get in touch with you.
You can go to harrisnadeem.org. Should I spell it out?
Yeah, sure.
HARISNADEEM.org, or you can check me out on Instagram. That's HARI Harry_Nadeem NADEEM. Those are probably the best. I should probably get on the other ones too, but that's what I have right
TikTok, aren't you doing the TikTok thing too now?
I am doing TikTok
Are you doing
now.
TikTok?
I'm like trying to do TikTok, but it's like it's still, I'm experimenting with a lot of goofy stuff, so I haven't told people that I'm doing it because I'm like, I don't want people's judgment. I just want to see what the TikTok people
Is that FOMO?
like.
Sorry, is that FOMO?
No.
I really appreciate you trying again, though. FOMO.
Yeah. Fear of missing out is not the same as fear of embarrassment, which is what I have with TikTok.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want people.
That's FOE.
He wants to miss out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On
Okay.
the embarrassment.
Yeah.
Okay, Chloe, what about you? How can people learn more about you, your artwork, and maybe get in touch for a piece or something?
So you can check out my website at chloelamarcheart.com. So it's CHLOELAMARCHEART.com, or same thing, Chloe Lamarche Art on Instagram and on Facebook as well. But I don't know who uses Facebook anymore.
Yeah.
I definitely don't.
Yeah.
I shouldn't, but I use it for the podcast mainly.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
You know,
It's like a business tool, so you're using it right, I think.
Although I have heard that using Facebook ads to manage your Instagram ads is better than using Instagram ads.
Yeah.
Somebody
Nice.
once
Little
told
bit
me.
Pro tip.
So yeah, that's it. So thank you guys for listening. As always, you can like us on Facebook, as we just talked. Everything is Young Pros Talk across the board. Email youngprostalk@gmail.com. YouTube videos are on YouTube now. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Young Pros Talk.
Yeah.
Instagram, Twitter, Young Pros Talk. Thank you guys for listening.
Bye.